morning. There is a swan family here. Doesn't like the goose. Just does it, just leave them. They're not very impressed. And then there's this guy who is just literally wandering around on his own.
Welcome to another episode of Toby Stupid Vlog.
Here is the rest of the cohort. He's just the most adventurous. The others are a bit slow to catch up. This is the Kew Summer Fair, which as always contains a lot of food and drink and general fun. We've come for the food and the drink, maybe even the fun. So there's the tea tent where you can have a cup of tea under the bunting, and the food trucks and what have you all behind us. We just have some paella. Just go for a wander around. We're in John Lewis. We're trying out new mattresses. This is about as much fun as you can have in John Lewis. It's lying down. We're in Battersea Park, been picnicking and whatnot. This is the famous Battersea Park Peace Pagoda. And we're heading off down to where they hire the bikes, which is what all these sit-down bikes that you can see people awkwardly attempting to cycle down the pavement.
Ready? Can we go? Don't run me over.
Or do.
Where's the other one?
Water fountains, Battersea Park. They sort of get more and more powerful over time. They kick on every hour for about 15 minutes. Hello, good morning, happy Monday. It is another very, very hot day, and it's going to be hot all week. Today I haven't had to go outside, so it's only slightly annoying. I mean, this is ridiculous, me complaining about the heat, but it's so hot you can't actually do anything. It doesn't, if you have to work, then I hope your office is air conditioned. If you have to work outside, then I'm very sorry. Anyway, it's a new week, so I thought I would talk to you about the thing that I've been sort of hinting at for a while, which is what I described as a business opportunity a couple of weeks ago, but is more practically actually a job offer, which I'm going to turn down. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it was, but I'm going to tell you my thinking and how I made my decision, because I think that you might find interesting or even useful, I don't know. So in order for this to be of any use at all, you probably have to understand, if you don't already, kind of how my work works at the moment. So I am self-employed. I work for lots of different people. I've been self-employed for 4 years, and before that I was paid a salary. I was full-time employed by a large radio group. So being self-employed means I have to do my own tax returns, I have to pay my own national insurance, I have to pay my own income tax, essentially retrospectively, rather than if you're full-time employed it comes out of your pay packet. And the offer that was made to me was essentially an offer of full-time employment with a profit share. And without going into the nitty-gritty of the numbers, I wasn't actually that concerned about the nitty-gritty of the numbers. You see, with the work I do for the Housing Association, one of the big things they have is about culture and about the way that they hire and fire. And so I've been really curious about that over the last few years. And so good organisations hire on culture first because they want you to fit into the organisation. You can train people with the skills as long as you believe they're competent enough and that they have the same visions and goals as the organisation. So with that in mind, it seems logical to me that the way you should decide to take a job is on the same basis. So if the organisation offers you the job, you don't necessarily know what their hiring processes are, but the way you should choose to accept or not accept the job if it's offered is on culture, because you certainly cannot change the culture of the organisation that you work for unless you are the head of HR. Regardless of the nature of the job itself, you might say, oh, that's quite nice, or that's not quite nice. Obviously, that is very important. It has to be something you actually want to do, first and foremost. But also you have to think, do you fit culturally within the organisation? And if the organisation is a small organisation, then that culture is the way that the people at the top work. So looking at those two things, was it something I really wanted to do? Was it something I'm genuinely passionate about and be excited to get up for in the morning? No. So that's a big no against whether you should do something. Now, it doesn't mean your interests don't change over time and what have you, but it certainly doesn't work in your favour. And you should be very honest about that and not be blinded by other factors. And secondarily, is it culturally the kind of organisation I can work for? Do I work the same way, or do I want to work the same way as the people at the top of the organisation? And the answer was no. So it's very simple. So it doesn't come down to a simple, like, do I want to be employed or freelance? Are they paying me enough money? I'm sure those are things that you will take into account, but I don't think they're the most critical. I think, do I want to get up in the morning and do this job? One, that is the most critical one. And two, does this organisation work in the way that I want to work? And for those two reasons, I will be turning down this job offer later this week. If you're thinking to yourself, yes, but what if they'd offered you an enormous amount of money? Surely you just suck it up and do the job for a bit. And they didn't, so I don't know the answer to that question. And I did think about that. And I would hope that I'd hold to my principles, because ultimately it's a work-life balance thing, and you want to be happy, not just rich. Or at least I do. So I don't know. I think if you are taking a job purely for the money, be realistic about it, be honest about it, and give yourself a time frame, after which point you won't just take it anymore and you'll go. There are sometimes reasons that you might need or want the money, but you've got to be very honest about that. Good evening. It's Tuesday. I've been at USP today, and on my way home, the trains to Richmond failed. So I got out of Barons Court station and I thought, well, I'll just get an Uber or a taxi or anything like that. But unfortunately, it is the Queen's tournament at the moment, and you might know the Queen's Club is right around the corner from Barons Court. So that meant half the roads were closed and there was surge pricing, and even if the cab had been able to get there, well, it would have been a miracle, frankly. It wouldn't have been able to get out. So here we are, wandering around in Fulham, trying to find a way onto the other side of the river so I can then get a cab from somewhere sensible. And they just keep redeveloping the riverside, so it's very hard to actually get there. So there's Hammersmith Bridge. So just going to cross that, and hopefully then I can get home a bit more easily. Because at the moment it is somewhat, I mean, it's beautiful out, don't get me wrong, but it's chaos. I'm still going. I wasted 15 minutes waiting for a bus that never appeared, so I've given up on that. I'm walking a bit more. Might get a cab eventually, but at the moment the prices are a bit stupid, so I'm just getting slowly closer. I mean, this is a lovely road. I just had rather hoped to be home by now. This is turning into somewhat more of an adventure than I really wanted at this point. Nearly back. What a palaver that was. Took 40 minutes, 35 minutes to get from Russell Square to Barons Court, which is completely normal, and it's taken me since then an hour and 15 minutes to get home, which is usually a 10-minute tube ride. So that's gone well. Oh well. I was thinking I might go for a walk tomorrow morning. No need. Covered. So I found out that my uncle died yesterday. My uncle, who was married to my aunt, who you may remember died a few years ago, the father of my 4 cousins who came to the wedding. And whilst it's not unexpected so much as his health had deteriorated over the last couple of years, and he wasn't, the last few weeks, certainly not very responsive, it's always sad, and the bigger problem is you're always left with a lingering memory of them at the end, which is not really the best version of them. And he in particular was a very, very smart man who taught and studied languages. He once taught Russian by teaching himself Russian 1 week ahead of the class he was teaching, so he was only 1 week ahead of them. And a very funny man as well, and that's kind of the memory that you want to hold on to, really. The best version of someone, and this seemed like an appropriate place as any to talk about it. I'm not going to linger any further on sadnesses. The world, and this country in particular, seems to be rather too full of them at the moment, and I don't have the desire, or well, I just don't have the desire to talk about them anymore, frankly. Stupid people do stupid things which result in a lot of people's death, and good people are still mortal and they won't be with you forever, and that's basically what it comes down to. And I don't think I have anything further to add, except that you should appreciate the world around you at every given opportunity. We're just closing up at Hampton Court, which is where we've been because it's Alex's birthday today, so we've just been out from here. But they're having a festival at Hampton Court, which is why it's so nicely lit up. I zoom a bit. Focus is struggling. It's too dark to focus. Happy Friday. It is Friday, but it doesn't feel like it, and I don't know why. It's probably because I've still got lots of things to do, including quite a heavy conference call later on. So I slept in quite late actually today. I don't think I woke up until about 10, which shows how tired I must have been. But it was definitely necessary, the sleep. I feel a bit better. And there is a possibility that we're going to go into Kingston this evening. We're still doing mattress/curtain shopping. So full-blown adulting, really. And but before then I've got to do at least one more vlog edit, my tax return, a couple more invoices, and go for a walk. And it's already 2:30. So it's 5 o'clock, time for an update. I've done one vlog, I was hoping to have done two. I have done a tax return and a conference call. I've also done 2 invoices, and I've tried to make contact with someone about a meeting in a couple of weeks. So I'm further ahead than I thought I'd be. And the reason I'm walking is not to go for the walk that I wanted, but it's that we're going back into Kingston, as I mentioned, to do some looking at mattresses and curtains and stuff, and I'm going to get the bus. So it's going better than I thought, if I'm honest. So we've actually bought a mattress, which is good going. Did the second attempt. And better still, it arrives on Saturday, so we haven't got to wait like 7 weeks to have a special one made. So that's very good. And now we're going to have a look at some curtains. There we go. That is a genuine insight into how exciting our Friday nights now are. I thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I'll see you next week. And I can't remember what I'm doing next week, but I'm going to try and make it as interesting as possible. So I'll see you then.